What's going on YouTube fam? It's Angus coming at you. Thank you so much for stopping by to click on this video. I've got something pretty sick in store for you guys today. It's going to be some snippets from me doing one of my alpha breakthrough calls. And I do these every week with people that have booked them in. Some are women, some are guys. Like, as you're aware, I run two different businesses, or if you aren't aware, guess what? I run two different coaching businesses, where one is solely for coaching guys to be able to get lean, overcome mental health issues, and just heal their relationship and outlook and stuff on food. And I have one for women as well, which is geared around similar, but more so to kind of just help them to really be able to become problem-eating machines and to just change their entire outlook on food, how they associate to themselves, and just really doing some epic self-love work. So yeah, in this particular video, you're going to see some snippets of me actually having a chat with this dude who was just over 100 kgs. He's been a dieter for some time and is basically just grinding and not really sure as to like why he's not losing fat, because according to an online calculator that he whammed his stats into online, you know, he found out his targets and he started aiming for them and tracking them on MyFitnessPal, and you know, doing everything that he thought was right. And in this call, basically, yeah, I was trying to educate him around just understanding the science behind how the body works and how fat loss works, and why our bodies basically just want to keep us safe, and how they adapt to everything that we do in terms of our modern day dieting attempts, and also why so many people aren't successful in their efforts despite the fact they think they're grinding and doing everything perfectly. So there's going to be some sick knowledge bombs that await in this video. Strap yourself in. There's about 11-ish minutes or so from memory, I think, of yeah, me chatting to this dude. So hopefully you get some value from it, and if you have any questions on the stuff that I touch on, just drop a comment in the comments below, or you can hit me up on social media and follow some of my shit there in terms of asking some questions and that sort of thing. So yeah, if you end up finding this video valuable, give it a like, and that way old mate YouTube gods show it to more people. And if you're keen to check out some more knowledge from me and learn a thing or two, feel free to subscribe, and more particularly check out the upload section as well. So let's get stuck into the content, and yeah, time to watch Angus in action. I can imagine, bro, it's fun, all good, no stress at all. So let's touch on one of the things you said before. So you're aware of kind of like some of the science behind fasting and stuff like that, and you know, people can take it to varying degrees in terms of how their feasting window looks in relation to their fasting window, right? Because in essence, what you're doing there is you're controlling in terms of like between when you wake and when you go to sleep. What you're doing when you're doing intermittent fasting is you're controlling or extending the fasted window in relation to when you feast. Because if you think about when the average person is going about their day to day, you know, they start off their day with some breakfast, usually within an hour upon waking up, and then, you know what I mean, they just snack and have main meals throughout the day. And so it's like their fasting window is only kind of when they go to sleep, right? So it's like they might be fasting from like, you know, fucking 10 till 6 or whatever, right? So there's usually only an 8 or 7 hour fasted period. So what you're doing here is you're basically, well, I don't know about you in terms of when your actual eating windows are, but the standard for someone that's kind of new to the game of fasting is that they might push back their first meal until lunchtime, right? So now what's happened is that they're fasting from 10 o'clock at night, so you've got 2 hours there, and then 12 hours until lunchtime, so it's a 14-hour fast. And then obviously those that get more experience and can handle hunger, etc., you push it back gradually into the afternoon to the point where you might do the old 1 meal a day squad, where you just eat all of your calories in 1 meal in the evening, and then, you know what I mean, Bob's your uncle. But yes, there is some healing properties to doing it and stuff like that. Obviously it gives your digestive system a break rather than just you shoveling down food all the time during the day. Obviously, well, in this sort of case, your body is kind of getting a bit of a break from just, well, having to digest food 24/7, you know what I mean? But in terms of does it have magical aesthetic properties or anything like that? Well, not really, because what you got to remember is that what controls how you feel is the quality of your food choices, right? Whereas what controls usually how you will look is consistency with overall food quantity, right? So for intermittent fasting to be able to help cause you to start losing body fat, right, that needs to be in direct correlation to eating the right amount of calories that your body requires to shift actual fat tissue. Does that make sense? So it's like when someone is obviously like killing it in the game of controlling how they look and how they feel, well, it's kind of like that balance between awesome, cool, knowing which foods make them feel the best and that will allow them to get enough protein and fiber, macronutrients, micronutrients, stuff like that, but also having, you know, I guess a good relationship and understanding around energy, around getting thermodynamics right, so that way when it comes to, well, yeah, like controlling how they look, they're actually able to feel good at the same time while doing so. Yeah. So like fasting is something that isn't necessarily magical, just like keto isn't fucking magical and special. Like all these different trending things are just different ways that you can kind of like adhere to a deficit, or like, do you see what I mean? So when you see people like myself, what I obviously teach is flexibility, because I believe that the average person, with how much demands they have in their day to day with work and shit on with, you know, relationships and shit on with family and just traveling and whatever, like the last thing that you want is rigidity to try and like achieve better aesthetics. You see what I mean? So it's like when you've got as much flexibility up your sleeve in terms of not having to eat at certain times and not having to necessarily like you know, have everything laid out in terms of when you're going to be eating and exactly what you're going to be eating, but like, you know, a lot of the time conventional dieting is very black and white, right? Whereas with a flexible path like this is what allows you to be able to kind of wake up each day and be like, sweet, what do I want to eat and when do I want to eat? It's going to allow me to meet my personal requirements. Yeah. So for someone who travels frequently and gets bored of eating the same shit all the time or whatever, right? You see what I mean? Like having a flexible based approach is a great asset to be able to handle their day-to-day demands, right? But whether or not someone incorporates fasting in sync with that isn't necessarily going to make or break their results. Like, say for example, what I encourage instead is listening to your body. So in other words, rather than just going, right, cool, must have breakfast because it's the most important meal of the day, like, yeah, eat breakfast if you're hungry and your body's telling you that it wants breakfast. But if it's not telling you and you're actually still feeling full from yesterday's eating, don't fucking force yourself to eat. Fast until when you're hungry, and then roll through the rest of the day to meet, you know, overall targets. Because learning to kind of work with internal hunger cues is a lost art. Like, believe it or not, we're actually born intuitive eaters, but we lose that skill through all our fucking, you know, food restriction and shit like that we put ourselves through thanks to the media. The media pumps us with that seed, with all this shit that they, you know, teach us that we need to do or whatever. Vast majority of it is complete bullshit, right? Some of it is legit, like you've got things like the National Dietary Guidelines and whatever that are on point, and they're made by the, you know, founder in kind of like, you know, think of Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all, right? We're kind of like, you know, coaches like me and whatever, we're part of the 9 rings, but the one ring is kind of like the equivalent of National Dietary Guidelines that everyone should be aware of, because that's what's going to have you feeling healthy and stuff like that. But in terms of controlling aesthetics and stuff like that, at the end of the day, everything comes down to energy. You can't escape that, right? Now, in relation to when someone is, say, for example, quite overweight, but they have a background with all sorts of different restriction and they've been what I call a career dieter. Have you ever heard of that term before? Career dieter is kind of like, yeah, pretty much. But it's kind of like where you've been in and out of all sorts of different deficits, aka different diets for such a long period of time that your bodily functions, your hormones, all that sort of shit have down-regulated so much that for you to have any chance at losing fat, you pretty much need to be on a poverty intake to have any chance at losing any more fat, right? And therefore what then happens is when that's happening to someone, they're jumping from wagon to wagon, thing to thing in terms of diet to diet. And then obviously because, well, your body picks up on what you're doing, it becomes better and better at adapting to these dieting attempts in an attempt to kind of like stop your self-destruction, if that makes sense, because that's what it's picking up, that you're kind of self-destructing yourself and you're putting it into some forced fucking famine and whatever. So this is it trying to kind of protect you, right? This is why it slows down your metabolism. This is why it plays around with your appetite so that you just want to eat the house down, because obviously it's trying to get you to gain some fat, right? Even though, you know what I mean? Like, even though you've already got some fat to lose or whatever, right? So it's like, for a lot of people, the scenario is that for them to be able to have any chance at losing fat properly rather than just losing weight, it's actually ideal for them to go through a period of time of getting out of a deficit and eating at maintenance, so their body is actually kind of cluing in with the fact that it's not in any sort of state of famine, that everything is actually okay. So that way, well, it can upregulate things, return your metabolism back to normal, return, you know, all the sort of internal shit to working fine. So that way, once, like, have you ever heard of the term biomarkers before? Like health biomarkers, have you heard of that term before? So it's kind of like all the things that a good coach looks at to be able to gauge if someone is actually properly healthy and ready to enter into a deficit or ready to start a comp prep, or like, do you see what I mean? So in other words, people like myself, I give a shit about someone's health more than just getting them lean, because if you can get healthy first, getting leaner is way easier, as opposed to just trying to get leaner while someone isn't healthy, where that digs you into a hole of feeling shit. Yeah, you may be able to change how you look aesthetically better, but you still won't love yourself. That makes sense? What you said in terms of like, you know, you're eating at 2400 and you're just like, you know, is this enough? You know, like, is it too low or whatever? And then me saying, bro, that's pretty much at your BMR, right? Like, it's actually too low. Like, everyone has a BMR, right? Irrespective of weight. Usually someone's BMR is like their weight in pounds times by 10. That's roughly what your BMR will be at, right? And your BMR is basically your basal metabolic rate. So it's essentially the energy that your body needs just to keep your metabolic hormones functioning and those processes happening in your organs with enough energy to do their job, right? Oh mate, yeah, the average person, fuck, like, and chicks, they do it down to like 1200, and guys, a lot of guys eat sub 1800. So it's like, for someone who's, you know, 100 plus, right, it's just like, you got to kind of drill into your head, eating less isn't your path to fucking killing it, right? So it's like, your BMR even alone was what, 20, because you're 108 kgs, that's what, like 240-ish pounds or whatever, or just under. So it's like, you multiply that by 10, that's loosely where your BMR is going to be at, right? So if someone's used to eating below BMR, you can just see kind of like how much of a disservice you're doing your body, right? So it's like, the only way to kind of go, fuck, sorry bro, let me look after you here, body, is to basically do what's called a reverse diet. Have you ever heard of that before? So I'm going to use, like, you obviously followed some of my prep with getting absolutely torn and shredded for comps and photo shoots and whatever, right? So for me to maintain that isn't healthy, right? So it's like, yeah, I look that awesome, but it's like, that's not my maintenance. Like, I'm a fraction, not quite as lean that I maintain year round, right? So for me to come out of, say for example, what the body would perceive as massive famine, right? You do what's called a reverse process. So it's like, rather than the normal process of getting lean, which is where you gradually drop your calories down, in this sort of case, you gradually increase your calories up to the point where you're eating at maintenance and your body can kind of get everything functioning properly back to normal. And then you decide if you're going to continue to eat at maintenance, which is the scenario of staying lean year round, or if you want to get lean again, you decide when your next comp is, you know, you dictate kind of how much time you got to play with, and that will dictate how fast or how slowly you shift into a deficit to get stage lean again, right? So in a scenario like yours, it would be kind of like, right, your body's used to eating below BMR, meaning that it's so down-regulated that for you to even have a chance at losing fat, you would pretty much need to be eating on a poverty intake, bro, right? So you can kind of see there that it's like, well, you wouldn't be happy eating next to nothing, right? So it's like, to be able to now get your body functioning to a point where you will lose fat, eating how much you should be eating to lose fat, which is probably closer to 3K, right? There needs to be some restoration restoration work that should get done first, right? So in other words, society and the media tells us, you know, eat less, move more, which is true to an extent, like for the average Joe type person, but when you've been a long-term dieter and you're quite overweight, that doesn't quite apply to you, right? Because you got to remember that you've got all these adaptations that your body has kind of put in place to try to keep you safe that you've got to sort out first, so that it kind of goes, right, we're good, like there isn't a famine going on, fuck yeah, let's let go of some fat, no dramas. And for you to do that and to put your body into that state of awareness, it's going to require, yeah, like, well, a bit of time increasing your intake. So if I was to work with you, for example, that would be a reverse dieting period, and you being okay with some potential weight gain, because if your body, if you think about if you were actually in the fucking desert, right, and you know, you've been eating next to nothing and your body's like fucking dropping some weight and whatever, and you know, it's been trying to keep you safe, and then all of a sudden there's a food source now, you know, you'd be fucking hungry, you'd be eating the food, you wouldn't even give a shit if you gained some weight, right? Because that's your body repairing itself, yeah? So in this sort of modern day scenario, it would kind of be, well, yeah, you're not skinny, right? But your body thinks that you are, for whatever reason, right? Based on the restriction that you put it in and out of for an extended period of time. So in other words, to get you healthier and things operating properly internally, right, it's going to require a gradual process of increasing your intake up to where it should be, which if I was to very loosely work it out now, let's say 108 kgs, so roughly in pounds you're 237, right? So that would be 2370 would be your BMR. If we very conservatively work out your overall energy or whatever, right? Your maintenance at the moment, your deficit at the moment roughly would be around 3,000. So you can see how kind of, yeah, that's roughly, like I'm not going to do exact calculations now, but it's kind of like roughly, that's like you should be playing up quite a lot higher than what you are here. So a reverse sort of process to get up to where you should be, so that way you can settle at that for a period of time. Obviously with the extra energy comes, more gains in the gym probably, right? So you might even, get a few grams of muscle built during that period of time if it's combined with some resistance training, right? But you can see here that what that's doing is that's kind of restoring, so that it sets the stage for you to be able to start leaning down properly when you do put yourself into a deficit, meaning that you could then be cutting on like 2800 or whatever, right? As opposed to trying to get lean already on an existing scenario where you might need to eat sub 2K. Does that make sense? Obviously there's some numbers floating around, but it's like health needs to come first. And you may think you're kind of healthy, right? But only on a couple of different bases. Like from food quality point of view, yeah, maybe. But it's like there's more things that should be looked at to be able to truly get health to where it needs to be, so that you will get your body to play the game. Yeah. Cool question. So it's not even going to be much, bro, but it all depends on the person and the level of extremity that they've put themselves through in terms of previous deprivation, right? Because, like, whether you like it or not, to varying degrees, you've been depriving your body of energy and various nutrients. So it's like, to be able to get healthy here will, like, part of it will be accepting that you're going to gain a little bit of weight. Is it going to be fat? Not very much. I would predict you probably gain some water as well. Because that's what happens as part of the body handling stress and just this process. But you got to understand that it's like, depending on consistency would determine how quickly or how slow that process goes for. And given that you've, like, so say for example, if someone's been putting themselves through hard dieting for like, a year plus, or they've been in and out of excessive dieting for multiple years, right? It can take about 3 to 6 months to even get fucking things internally happening and functioning as they're supposed to, right? And this can be, obviously assessed from looking at their biomarkers, from you getting blood work done, stuff like that, to be able to make sure that, health is fucking important, right? It should always be health before aesthetics, right? And then if that's done properly, well then, the scenario is that you get to start getting leaner, eating way more food than as if you did it the conventional way. There we go. I really hope you got some value from watching this video, and as you can see, like, the body is so smart. Like, it just wants to keep you safe, and it wants to make sure that all its functions are in full operation, which is why for the average conventional dieter in today's day and age, they're fighting a losing battle, because they're trying to undereat, they're trying to eat super #clean, they're grinding in the gym, they're putting in the hard yards, yet likely scenarios that the person will become skinny fat. And because everything's so down regulated in terms of the body trying to just drop everything so that way it can adapt to what you're doing, well, it's like you've dug yourself into a hole where you're having to live on next to no food, and usually associated with that is a lot of restriction around food as well. So it's like, I often see that people can become binge eaters and just have eating disorders and be so body image obsessed and just dug themselves into a real hole that can be quite hard to get out of without some proper coaching. So do me a favor, if you found this video valuable, comment below and let me know what you learnt and what stuck out for you. Or if you have any questions around the stuff that I covered in those little snippets, hey, it'd be cool to hear what stuck out for you, yeah. And please, if you are someone who feels like you're struggling in the game that is trying to get lean and build an awesome, just becoming homies with food, and if that's all a struggle for you, please, I'd encourage you to check out in the link below. You'll see a link to my store in there that will take you to a specific link that will basically have heaps of free stuff that you can check out. You can check out some of my low-cost ebooks and online programs. If you're keen for coaching and to see if it could be a good fit for you, there's also a link within that link, Inception, I know, where you can actually gain some insight into what coaching is all about, and you can potentially be booking in a call with me, where I could be chatting with you and hearing what you're about and what's been happening, so that I can work out if and how I can help you. Yeah. So understand that you're never too far gone. Alright, your body is a very smart thing. It always adapts to what it perceives to be the average. So obviously if you feel like you're just overweight and you're a lost cause, well, if you believe that, that will be the case. But if you're prepared to be open-minded and bring in some fresh strategy and stuff like that, and prioritize getting healthy, we'll then understand that with the right strategy in place, you can be getting lean over time. I promise you that. So as I said, if you found this video valuable or have any questions, please give it a like and comment below. That way YouTube shows it to more people. And obviously if you're new to the game here in terms of my channel, please, I'd highly encourage you to check out some other videos, check out the uploads, and definitely think about subscribing as well. But I'll see you next time in the YouTube world. Have an awesome rest of your day, whatever you're up to. Peace out. Catch you later.
There will come a time for when we can wash away our sins, settle down, but until then